Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
Yeah.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
I wasn't on stage. There I am. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the office. Welcome to, my home, in whatever order. Welcome to the morning grind. It is so good to see you. I have been up this morning. I'm tired, but I was still up this morning trying to get some work done. I was trying to do some writing, and that just didn't work very well. So I started working on this, the Shadow Dark virtual tabletop some more. Tried to put in the time writing, but it just didn't work. I've got a list. I didn't get as much done yesterday as I wanted to, I guess because there's more to do than I thought. Got a list of things to finish up on the Shadow Dark VTT. But I thought that today, because I wasn't ready to show that off. I was hoping to be able to completely show that off today, but I'm just not ready. So I figure I'll go to that tomorrow, and we can have a discussion today. I figured today would be a good day for a relaxed kind of discussion that feeds off what we were talking about yesterday as well. So good morning, Innerlight. Good morning. And good morning, Stefanatic. Good morning. Good to see you. Welcome. Glad to have you here this morning. We've got Lynn here this morning and PH and Charlie. Good morning. Jason is here. Good morning. Let's see. Zero the Blade, member for 11 months, says, morning. We talking about how broken 1 HP in D&D while being really scary in every other tabletop RPG. Well, we can talk about that. Yeah, that's can be definitely part of our topic today. Good morning, Sable. And let's see. And I've starred a bunch of the stuff that Inner Light was already saying over there. So we will bring that up as well. I was realizing this morning as I was like wandering around the house, I was like, I think what is my problem with that? And it's from a game design perspective. And so I want to talk about this from a game design perspective. And also it's game design perspective. And also it's a consequence of things we've talked about on this channel with regard to randomness and dice. And so I want to address it from that perspective as well. Good morning, John. Good morning. All right, let's just move in this morning. Let's go ahead and do our and Mr. B plays. Good morning, Mr. B plays. Good morning. Good to see you. All right, let's do our morning reading and our morning ritual here. Everybody got your drink this morning? I've got coffee. I've got coffee right here. So good morning. We've got coffee. All right, let's do our breathe and sip, and then we will get into our major discussion this morning. We start the morning taking care of our mental health, so let's relax and focus for just a moment. So let's do 2 deep breaths, deep inhales, complete exhales, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then take a sip of your favorite beverage this morning. So here we go. Let's breathe. Everybody together. You'll feel better if you do it. Join us all. Here we go. Breathe in. And sip. Here we go. All right. That's good this morning. Let's see. This is what we read yesterday. Let's go to Turning Pro. Oh, that was the end of book 2. So let's go to, let's do the qualities of the professional. This is Stephen Pressfield. We're reading Stephen Pressfield, The Art of War. No, this is Turning Pro. We read The Art of War. This is Stephen Pressfield, Turning Pro. Book 3, Qualities of the Professional. Move this over here. Qualities of the professional. In the War of Art, I listed the following as habits and qualities that the professional possesses that the amateur doesn't. 1, the professional shows up every day. 2, the professional stays on the job all day. 3, the professional is committed over the long haul. 4, for the professional, the stakes are high and real. Further, 5, the professional is patient. 6, the professional seeks order. 7, the professional demystifies. 8, the professional acts in the face of fear. 9, the professional accepts no excuses. 10, the professional plays it as it lays. 11, the professional is prepared. 12, the professional does not show off. 13, the professional dedicates himself to mastering technique. 14, the professional does not hesitate to ask for help. 15, the professional does not take failure or success personally. 16, the professional does not identify with his or her instrument. 17, the professional endures adversity. 18, the professional self-validates. 19, the professional reinvents herself. 20, the professional is recognized by other professionals. Here are a few additional qualities before we move on to higher expression of professionalism. So we'll start. Well, let's do the professional is courageous. Then we'll get back on our 2 pages a day. A professional is courageous. The professional displays courage, not only in the roles she embraces, which invariably scare the hell out of her, or the sacrifices she makes of time, love, family, or even in the enduring of criticism, blame, envy, and lack of understanding, but above all in confronting his or her own doubts and demons. A linebacker and the Army Ranger goes into action as part of a team, but the artist and the entrepreneur enter combat alone. I take my hat off to every man or woman who does this. So there we go. If you're new here, we start the day off with our breathing and then some reading to inspire us to go forward and be creative, because there are a lot of creative and constructive people here on the channel in general. And so we're trying to get things done. We're all trying to make things. So that's our moment of reflection with the breath, and then going into some kind of inspirational reading. Now we can get into our main topic this morning. And our main topic is dice and hit points and 1 hit point characters. So I'm going to bring up some notes here, because I haven't even typed out my notes yet. So I'm going to type out notes as we go here. Let's see. Okay. So let's see. The discussion already started this morning. So, let me put up the, I didn't add the notes to the stage. There we go. The discussion already started in the comments. All right. Now I got a place to write. Okay. 1 hit point. We're talking about 1 hit point characters. Dice and game design. Dice, randomness, really. Dice and randomness. That way you should be able to see it. Okay, so to start off with, so Inner Light had already started this morning. So Inner Light says, I do understand, because I was thinking about this more as I was looking back over all the characters that we created for Shadow Dark. I also created an Elven Wizard. I went ahead and created an Elven Wizard too this morning. They're not exported yet. But Inner Light says, to be on topic, I do understand the pain of rolling 1 hit point. I have a few axe characters where con modifier added to hit points with only 3 or 4 hit points because I rolled low. Gorlatan, a Dark Lord of Chaos, has only 4 hit points. It's kind of embarrassing. But that being said, I think there's a slight difference between having 1 hit point in D&D high fantasy and some of these OSRs, which are heroic fantasy. I agree with this. Inner Light says, in D&D, where your experience is based on combat, it's completely expected. In OSR, your experience will often be based on your fat loots, so combat can and often should be avoided. Now, I think that's a great realization of the game design principles as well. That's where you put your advancement. So if you're only getting experience through combat, then you're going to be expected to do a lot more of it. And that came up yesterday when we were talking about Shadow Dark and this subject in brief, that, well, combat's something that you should avoid. And now that's something that's crossing when you've got players that are coming over. A more lethal game, you're not going to be up and down and, all of that as much. You may just be up and then down, right? If you try to just run in and start trying to handle problems just by killing things. So I think that's an important part of the game design. And then the last Phoenix says max HP on the first HD is how I played it. We played that way a lot. Going back to AD&D. I mean, that was pretty common. Max HP at first level. That was a pretty common house rule, to just give everybody max HP at first level. And Mr. B Plays says, because it's the hero mentality of the game on the 3rd edition. Let's see. James says, I tend to agree. Truly, at level 1 or level 0, if combat averages 6 damage to a PC every round, then 6 hit points is as good as 1. Combat should be avoided for sure. That's a point I'm going to come back to right here. Is it Moss Ritter that talks about how dice kill characters? I think it was. OSR is much more about thinking your way out of problems than beating your way through them. I see, and John says, of course, I kind of like this too. I've talked on this channel before in different videos about how I, in general, don't like inflationary hit points. You can increase hit points in certain games. That's their style. That's the game philosophy. But also, I kind of like the idea of having your hit points in the beginning, and then if you get more, because the inflationary hit points things, I just don't think works. I don't think that works well. You can get more in some games, but you need something predictable that you can actually design a game around. All right, let me go over here. So my thinking was, okay, are the hit dice a feature of the class? And by this, I mean, like, is the fighter supposed to have HP than the wizard? Now, like, the 1 hit point wizard is kind of iconic. So I'm not saying there's not a place for it. But I'm going to suggest against it. But, is the fighter supposed to have more HP than the wizard? Because the fighter's hit die, the hit die is double. So if I'm designing these classes, fighter has no magic. In some games, the fighter will fight better than the wizard starting off. I noticed it's a good point that in Shadow Dark there was no just general to hit bonus. That was all based off of your. You could roll it as part of a talent. But there was no general hit bonus. So a wizard could hit harder than a fighter. Because if a wizard had higher strength, the wizard could have a higher to hit bonus. So the fighter has no magic. In some games, will fight better. But might get more HP. There's no guarantee there. So from my perspective now, from a game design perspective, if I'm trying to look at what these classes do differently, okay, wizard gets magic. Fighters get swords. They don't get magic. But fighters get more hit points. Wizards get less hit points. But in this style of game, when you're rolling for these hit points, well, the fighter might get more HP. How do I deal with might get more HP from a game design perspective? The hit die is twice as large. What am I expecting for a warrior? What am I expecting a warrior to have different than the wizard? It might be more hit points, but the hit die that's actually expressed on the character sheet or in the the class description only might give more HP. Yeah, even giving max HP, you can still be low. And that's fine. I also want to ask, is being wounded an important state in the game? And this is also from the game design perspective. Is being wounded an important state of the game? And I kind of brought that up last time. Because if you have, alive, if you have full health, so you're doing great, full health, injured or wounded or whatever, wounded as something that's possible. So I'm going to put a question mark there, especially at lower levels, and then dead or dying. However you're handling dead or dying. Is that something that a character is supposed to have and supposed to be able to go through? It seems like a lot, because this is full health, I'm good. Caution, well, full health, I'm possibly good. Full health, I'm possibly good. Wounded, that's caution. And then dead or dying, you're out. So the problem So everybody has a possible, or most people have a, most characters have a possibly wounded. There's no guarantee you're going to go through possibly wounded, but for most characters, they go through a state where you're possibly wounded. So 1 HP characters will never have or leave out the possibly wounded state or the potential to be wounded. And this can impact things like healing with the cleric. So like the cleric can heal if you are down. If you're dead and dying and lying on the floor, then you can get the cleric to heal you. But it also impacts things like cleric healing. Because a lot of players will have, oh, I'm wounded, the potential to be wounded. Oh, caution, toss me some healing or drink a potion. And that, you know, that's a good point. Like here, and the ability to drink a potion. Something like a health potion, if that's an important part of this, that you might have something like a health potion. If you only have 1 HP, you're never going to be in a state where a potion, you have the potential to heal yourself with a potion. So this is actually, these two are my game design reasons that I would need to think about. And it seems like in most OSR kinds of things, including, I would say, Shadow Dark, the hit dice is a feature of the class that only might have an impact. And yet that seems like a big deal. So I would want the hit dice of the hit dice to actually make an impact. How do we change this so that it actually makes an impact? And also make sure that all characters have the potential to go through wounded. You can still be one-shotted. You can still be one-shotted, as people have already been brought up, especially with low hit points. But if you only have 1, you are completely out of this phase of the game, this section of combat. And also the ability to potentially heal yourself or cast a spell on yourself. You're going to be completely dependent upon the others. You're never going to be able to even have the potential to maybe help yourself out. John says, I often give first level characters second level HP, but they don't get an increase until 3rd level. Wait, which one is Axe? So I thought that was a... I thought that was Act, but that's referencing a game. So I also think the game handles that death is important to look at too. I mean, I agree. What happens here with dead or dying? Axe is one of the more forgiving system because you lose all of your hit points, and dying most of the time will mean you wake up later with a unique permanent injury or scar. Yeah, and some other OSR games, there's systems where you the only time that anyone dies is when the party wipes. Well, okay, so Lynn says, when you ask questions like that, I mean, I've talked about what hit points represent and the hit point debate. I've got videos on that here about what exactly is a hit point supposed to represent. I don't know that we need, do we need to get into that discussion? This wasn't exactly the discussion that I was going to have, but Lynn says that it's important to have. Lynn says when you ask questions like that, you need to delve into what hit points are supposed to represent. How are they being conceptualized? And you may have been talking about like inflationary hit points. Yeah, and I'm a fan of GURPS. So yeah, so Lynn says, PH says, I think HP should not grow that much. Like kind of static HP. You should have a base for the race, some bonus to stronger people, another for class. And I'm a fan of GURPS. And I'm a fan of GURPS. So yes. Maybe the fighter doesn't have many more hit points, but it's more skill in combat and maneuvers that help him not taking the source of damage. It could be, in that case, you could say, why not say that everybody has the same hit die? If you're going that direction or one particular direction, you could say everybody's got the same hit die. It doesn't really, so yes, the wizard might have more hit points than the fighter. Everybody's just rolling. Mike says, why not make those states instead of HP and weapons advance you one state? Why not make those states instead of HP and weapons if you want to be wounded to be a feature of the game? Well, you could. Now, I'm a big fan of conditions. I like having like actually a condition being wounded. This is some state here where I'm talking about wounded. I'm talking about in a much more just general idea of you are down in your hit point pool. You're no longer at full health, but you're in between full health and dead and dying. You know, that's just classic hit point loss. Because you could go that way. We could completely toss out the hit points, which I'm not against. I've been thinking about not using hit points in the future for game design. We've talked about that. So, but here the purpose isn't to just throw it out and try to come up with a new system. So those are my two reasons. But then also, okay, fun. So as has been pointed out in the chat, there isn't a lot of that. Maybe you could console a player if they've got one hit point. I do want to talk about dice distribution. Just make note of that to myself here. Consoling a 1 HP character, player, a player consoling a player of a 1 HP character. Maybe the wizard is expected. Like, well, man, I'm playing a 1 hit point wizard again. But especially something like a fighter or a ranger or something like that. And that seems to be the point that you guys brought up, that, well, even having more, you can be one-shotted with more HP anyway. So not really that big a deal. Deal with it. Well, 1 isn't all that different from having 2 anyway. Because like we were looking at least we were looking at Shadow Dark. Like we were looking at first level monsters like goblins doing D4 or D8 or D6. We looked at D4 and D6 damage anyway. So yeah, you're doing D4 and D6 damage. So it doesn't matter. Like the potential, even if you got a 4 hit point wizard, you might have more with Constitution or whatever, but if you got a 4 hit point wizard, you can still be one-shotted by the goblin with a club. You can still like a club or a mace or something with a D6 or a short sword or something. Your clerics and your thieves can still be one-shotted. Even max hit, even 6, if not including con bonus. But you can still be one-shotted even with a short sword. So why does it matter? Like you have to be up into 8, 7 or 8, even with the 8 hit die. Now, see, I do like this. If you're looking for lethality, a longsword does D8 damage. So even if you've got 8 hit points, you could still be one-shotted with somebody with a longsword and be dead. Now that makes it extra significant to be over that 8-point mark. Now there are still things like the great axe, which are D12. I mean, you have to have a lot of hit points in order to avoid being one-shotted. But longswords are pretty common, so that's even a D8. And so that's kind of a big deal to have 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 if you got a con bonus hit points, because you're not going to be able to be one-shotted by something like longswords and beneath. Like you still have to worry about for great weapons. So that actually works out pretty well. But here's where I would go to where we're going to the fun here. Let's see. 1 hit point PCs normally hide, right? And RC, I mean, there are a lot of different great solutions to go here. It could be helpful to have a baseline HP. All normal adventurers have like a base 5 HP. Then class levels give bonus HP per level. That would, I think, be a perfectly reasonable way to go, because then if you're saying that your hit points, how many hit points you have is actually a feature of your class, like we're talking about up here, and I want to build that into the game, perhaps for balance reasons. And then, of course, what you think about balance is something else entirely. But if you want that to be part of the game, that's one way to do it. This suggestion definitely leans. Your body has 1 hit point total ever, regardless of physique. But then armor absorbs damage. Well, yeah, and I do like GURPS does damage by body part. How many body points are actually in each arm or leg? I'm scrolling down a little bit right here. Yeah, Hero Quest does say that if you fall to 0, you can use a potion or spell to heal themselves immediately. You could do that. You could add something in that you can take some kind of action to save yourself. Yeah, that was brought up yesterday, that Janelle Jackway had died. And we covered that material here on the Morning Grind. So we should do our sip here. I saw it go by in the chat yesterday, but I don't think I acknowledged it. So here's to Janelle. Okay, so Frederick Rourke says 1 to 3 hit points. There's no real difference. Okay, so then here's what I would do as far as a game design. If I can have 1 hit point, and I got a player who's dealing with a 1 hit point character, especially if it's like a ranger or a fighter or whatever, I got to do something about that. And so whenever we're competing with something, we're talking about how do we do something mechanically, which one is more realistic, which one's more simulationist, which one works. We got to put an emphasis on fun here. We got to put an emphasis on fun. So if there's 2 different ways that we could do it, like, well, this one might be more realistic, but this one might be more fun, or this one is more fun, I think you go with the one that's more fun, because it is, after all, a game. So this is the gamist side of things coming out. Go with the one that's more fun. Because if we sit down, I'm trying to think about that as far as different game designs, RPGs. What's not fun? Are there parts of this that we don't enjoy? Now, of course, that's situationally and personally, it's going to depend on the person and situations, things like that, I know. But just in general, is there stuff about this that we're not enjoying? Oh, well, then we should eliminate it from the game. If there's something about the game we don't like, then we're not having fun with, or that we get depressed about, let's eliminate it and just focus on the fun things, because table time is limited. So when you have everybody together, let's have fun. So I'm going to use this idea that there's not much real difference to say, then, you know what? We shouldn't have 1 HP characters then. Because if we're all making this big argument that it doesn't really matter anyway if you have 1 hit point, because 1, 2, or 3, there's not a whole lot of difference because of the monsters and you still be one-shotted and whatever else. Okay, then great. Use that argument to throw out 1 HP characters. Because if you're making the argument that 1 and 2 and 3 are all the same anyway, then it's going to make the player happier to have the other the more hit points. Is the player going to be happier with 1 or 3? Probably 3. And if it doesn't matter anyway, give them the 3. That's what I'm saying. That would be my argument here. Then we're about to fix this up here. That doesn't fix this. Exactly. Now, you guys have already put in the comments some way to fix that, but that preserves this part of the game and being able to heal yourself. So everybody potentially has this wounded condition, and we're taking care of fun. Okay. So I realized that yesterday, I think this was yesterday. I was like, if it doesn't matter, then go with the way that's most fun. Just accept the fun. Yeah. So, well, there, right, and that prevents you from having to say something like that to the player, because the character generation is basically your first experience at the table, right? That's basically the first thing that you do if you're not using pre-generated characters or something like that. But if you sit down, you roll up a character, and then your experience during character creation is a bummer. Well, we don't want that. let's not start the game on a down note. We want to start the game on a high note and keep going because we're trying to have fun here. At least that's what I'm doing. Mike says the issue of being one-shotted with more HP is an issue of probability. A character with 1 HP is certain to be one-shotted. Exactly. A character with 4 HP is somewhat less likely to be one-shotted. Right. Yes. You're not guaranteeing a wounded condition, but you are, the more hit points you have, the greater probability it is that you're going to get a wounded condition. And that's why that you're guaranteeing it. That's one of my problem with this. You're guaranteeing that the 1 hit point character is binary. Yeah, and also having 1 HP is brutal for incidental effects. Like if you cross over a terrain obstacle, that kills you or something, right? Yes. Well, okay, right. It's different sized dice. Yes. Doesn't D&D essentially treat HP as a class feature already? It's different size, but my point is, it looks like it's supposed to be a class. I mean, it is technically a class feature. It's under features, but the way I'm using the term right here is it a class feature that the fighter is supposed to have more hit points than the wizard, in the same way that the wizard has spells and the fighter does not? So it seems to be that way because, I got a D8 hit die, or, in D&D, like a D10 hit die for your barbarians. It seems like the barbarian should have more hit points than the wizard, but it could be the case that the barbarian rolls a 1 and has 1 hit point, and the wizard rolls a 4 and the wizard has more hit points. So is that what we want? All right, we're going to fix that. I'm just scrolling down through some of the comments. Very, very popular topic right here. Oh, buy this axe I hack. Okay, buy this axe I hack. It's B. That's B. BTA. I like that too. I think that was something that I liked out of Buy This Axe I Hack as well. That's more GURPS like. Use your Constitution score. Or I'm also a fan of using your Strength score. Like in GURPS, did they change that in 4th edition? I can't remember now all of a sudden. But that was a big thing that, like, in GURPS, your physical mass was most represented by your strength. So I kind of like putting hit points on strength, because if you look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator, you're probably going to have more hit points than somebody who has high constitution, who is a wire-thin runner, like long-distance runner. Oh, yeah, it looks like I'm going. Okay. So, okay, now I want to, the dice distribution issue. I'm going to pause right there. It occurred to me as well that my problem with the hit point rolling is the same problem that I had been having when I was talking about all of the D20 stuff on this channel. When I was just talking about using a D20, or should we be using a bell curve and all of that, and we went through a series. This is before I was doing the live streaming. We went through this series where we handled all of that. And, it's flat. So how many... the flat expectation, the flat graph generated by these hit dice is a problem. So because how many hit points is a wizard going to have on average? But it's the same kind of thing as, like, what is the average roll of a D20? Well, we can talk about averages, or how much is the versus, especially like here, how many HP is the wizard going to have on average versus how many HP is the fighter going to have on average. And yes, you can talk about an average of rolling a 4-sided die, or an average of rolling a 8-sided die, or an average of rolling a D20 die. But as we pointed out, that doesn't have a whole lot of meaning, because the distribution of a D20 it's equally likely to roll a 1 as it is a 20, and all other numbers as well. It's equally likely to roll all numbers. So I'm about to roll this D20. Okay, the average roll is like 10.5, but knowing the average roll in that sense doesn't help you. It's knowing that the mode is going to be equal across the distribution that's really influencing this. And that's why we talk about bell curves. And then, of course, we actually talked about the relationship between bell curves, the range of the bell curve, the random element, the range. It didn't actually end up being the bell curve, but the range of the random element versus the range of your modifier ended up doing most of what I was interested in doing. Because you have this range with a large range with a D20 and a very flat distribution. So likewise, you know, if the wizard is supposed to have 2.5 hit points or 2 hit points on average, and the fighter is supposed to have like 4 on average or 4.5, whatever it would be, it doesn't matter if when you sit down to roll that 1 hit die, here's your 1 roll, 1 hit die, and your expectation is completely flat. So the problem here, once again, and this, we have the problem is the flat distribution of these dice. So it looks like, so even though you know, the D8 hit die, the D8 hit die guy looks like he's got something bigger, there's no guarantee, you know, has twice what the D4 guy has. Both are rolling 1 time on a very flat distribution. You may be able to see where I'm going with this. Let's see what's going on in the comments. Oh, thank you, Charlie, for reminding me. Yeah, lots of people here this morning. Please do hit the like button. Hit the like button and get this out to other people. There may be other people sitting out there lonely on YouTube who would like to be here with us having some coffee on the morning grind and talking about hit dice and hit points there. And then so your like helps push that out to other people in the algorithm. So help people out there who would like to be a part of this, and YouTube just not showing it to them. Mike says, I'd re-roll the 1 HP characters, but either do it where you split the hit die down to 2 dice or roll 2 hit dice and take the larger. Probabilistically, these solve problems with different assumptions. 2.5, yeah, I thought it was, and 10.5, yeah. Standard deviation is also important. Right. Exactly. That's why it's swingy. 1d20 has an average of 10.5, but the standard deviation is almost 6. That's pretty swingy. Right. With 2d10, your average is 11, and the standard deviation is just 4. So you can do it this way. So this is going to the d20 side of things, which we've talked a lot about. To solve the flat distribution of the d20 roll, I use a system where people roll 2d20 and pick the middle result. There's more to it, but that's the basic relevant idea. D8 hit die guy. What is a normal man? Okay, so what I would do. So my question is, let's say, one thing you could do is static hit points. So the suggestion is about static hit points. But what if you still do want to roll for hit points? Because you could solve that, like we said, with like some flat number of hit points based on your class. On level 1 plus your con modifier or your strength modifier, but your con modifier most commonly here. You could totally do that. What if you want to keep rolling dice, though? That way, every fighter doesn't have the same number of hit points without accounting for con. What if you want to keep rolling dice, but you want no 1 HP characters? You want there to be a floor. Floor that's above 1. And you want to generate better average hit points. So you could end up being low. Like how often do you want that to happen? Because if you roll, let me put another question that you want to ask yourself as a game designer. If the worst thing happens, what do you want that result to be? So basically, if all of the characters, all the players roll their hit points and all roll the worst possible. Hey, and I'm living proof you can do that, right? Because I rolled up a bunch of characters and ended up with 1 hit point in a bunch of them. So yes, it can be done. If all the characters roll their hit points and all roll the worst possible result, what do you want to have happened? I think that's the kind of thing you have to think about as a game designer. Because classically now everybody, the barbarian, the fighter, the thief, and the wizard, all have 1 hit point. All have 1 hit point. Do you want something like, so if we had fighter, wizard, let's look at the Shadow Dark stuff. Just use those as an example. And wizard, and cleric. What is the worst possible result that you want to exist for this spread of party members as far as their hit points go? The worst possible spread, which is possible right now, is just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, at least for the roll. Now, somebody might have a con bonus, but 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. What if it were something like wizard? What if it were something like wizard? Well, worst possible result is the wizard would get 2, the thief and the cleric might get 3, and the fighter might get 4. What if that were the worst possible result of your hit point rolls? So I have been in favor, if you've been following the different game design stuff we've been doing here, and I'm generally in favor of more smaller sided dice. I like rolling more smaller sided dice as opposed to something like, the D20 with its massive swinginess. So what if hit dice or hit points or hit dice or D2s? Or what if hit dice are always D2s? Or hit points rolled with D2s, however you want to phrase that. At least at level 1. I mean, I think probably might be a good idea rolling later, rolling that as well if you want to come up with some type of standardization across multiple levels if you've got an inflationary hit point situation. Because I think this solves the problem. So what if you have wizard and the wizard's hit die is 2d2? And then you have, and this would be the Shadow Dark kind of thing, but the thief, instead of rolling a d6, would roll 3d2. The cleric would also be the same in this case, would be 3d2. Now, Shadow Dark didn't have d10 hit points. We do the same thing for D&D or other classes that would have that. Fighter then would then have 4d2. Well, what does this mean? This means that, what is the minimum roll here? Minimum, max, right here. So here we have a minimum of 2. We have a maximum of 4. Look, problem solved. Wizard becomes, has a floor of 2 and a max of 4. Thief ends up with a floor of 3. That means that, yes, a stronger wizard, the best the wizard can do, could give them more hit points than the thief and the cleric. So the cleric would be the same way here. And then our max, but our max doesn't change. So if we're talking about 6, we're talking about 6 right over here as well. And now we put a floor of 4 on the fighter. If the class feature of the fighter, they have more hit points because they may need to be the one out front and taking damage, and the player wants to play a character like that. Now we haven't changed our maximum hit points at all, but we have put a floor under all of our characters based on class in a way that I think makes sense. We eliminate the 1 hit point problem. We still have characters that can be one-shotted by people with clubs and short swords and stuff at the low end. It's still dangerous, but we said it doesn't. If it's dangerous both ways, then go with the way that's more fun. And I think a lot of players would be happier with this kind of distribution because we also get a normal distribution. But well, it depends on how many steps you've got. But we end up with something with a bell curve kind of thing going on. There isn't many steps with the wizard in here. So there is some kind of expectation as well about how many hit points the fighter or the cleric or the thief might actually have. It's comparatively rare to get your max. it's comparatively rare to get your minimum, but your minimum still isn't all that bad, and you're more likely to be rolling some reasonable number across all of this. We're going to look at the math on this in just 1 second. I'm going to scroll down. Hey, good morning, Steel Mongoose. See what people are saying. Does it state that a minimum of 1 HP? No, it's minimum 1 HP. Yeah. So you would do it this way. Then Wizard's hit points would be 1d3 plus 1. Thief's hit points would be 1d4 plus 2. And Warrior hit points would be 1d5 plus 3. Yes, you could also do something like that. You could totally do something like that. And the reason we can get D3s, we can get D5s. I got D5 sitting around here someplace. I want to with my Dungeon Crawl Classics dice. I think we're too beholden to our classic dice. Just the basic polyhedral dice set. I think we're too beholden to it. I mean, it used to be that an extreme advantage, and you cannot discount this advantage. An extreme advantage of game design with our classic polyhedral dice is that they're they're ubiquitous. Everybody's got them. They're available if you're making a game and you want people to sit down and play with just a book and paper and pencil and dice. Then you need to make it with dice that are standard dice so that people have them in their, by their gaming books. But on the other hand, that means that we always end up conforming, don't always, but we often end up conforming the game and dice rolls to what is already something that was established as a polyhedral dice set decades ago. And of course, manufacturing is generally easier now as well. So at the time, if we get these dice manufactured, then we need to use them. But here we can manufacture more. So I'm also an advocate of breaking away, using custom dice or using non-standard dice. So use the ones that are smaller use more dice that are smaller on the distribution. Arun says, I think the multi-small dice is simulating the monster HD optional rule where you just take the average of their HD as if it's a D. Yes. I thought about that for the monsters as well. The average with this great range, because you don't want to roll that for monsters. And of course, I'm mainly thinking about all of this in the context of your heroes, your player characters, because you wouldn't want to generate monsters this way. But you often just have that written down. Here's your average, what's supposed to be, or would be. It would be if you did roll it this way. Oftentimes you've got an HD that's average. But if you had the underlying structure of the game, even for monsters, generating it using a curve like this, then you could just pull out what is the most expected value for that monster and put it beside, or put it in the stat block. Yes, and some games handle it that way. I think there's also an optional rule for players to take half their dice in some games. Right, some games will be like, you can roll for it or you can take half. But that's another way that we're trying to solve this problem. And then in some games, you can double dip. If you said that's true too, you could say if you want to skew it up, then you can say we're just going to put the floor at half, but you might roll higher. Let's see. So let's look over here at what our numbers are, because I was over here in any dice. So I don't see any. I'm having a trouble seeing a downside to this, especially you're talking about dice. Especially when we've got so many dice rollers that can just roll whatever we want online. Now, some people won't want the technology at the table. I played both ways. But we can roll whatever kind of dice we want. Let me take this down. Can you see that? There we go. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Mike's already got it. But yes. So okay. So here's output 2D2. So this seems like a perfectly acceptable distribution for a wizard at level 1. 25% chance of 2 hit points, 50% chance of 3 hit points, 25% chance of 4 hit points. Makes great sense to me. You're basically taking away that 25% chance of rolling a 1, which we're saying is a problem, and giving it to rolling a 3. Why not do that? Why not do that? Makes perfect sense to me. Here is 2D3. So here is what your thief and your cleric would have. You would have an 11% chance of rolling a 2, but also an 11% chance of rolling a 6, 22% chance of rolling a 3, 22% chance of rolling a 5, and then a 33.33% chance of rolling a 4. So we got this step distribution that's around the 4. So this looks like here we can also much more clearly see what we're kind of expecting the wizard to have, about 3. Here, over here, what is going on with my mouse again? Here we go. Here, we're expecting the wizard to have, the thief and the cleric to have 4, but maybe as low as 3 or maybe as high as 5. And if they get real lucky or real unlucky, we got 2 or 6. And then here is output. Output of 3D2. Was that the same thing? Oh, no, excuse me. This was 2D3. Excuse me. That was 2D3. Here is our output of 3D2. That's actually what I thought was the better way to go, because that puts the floor of 3. That's what I was trying to do. So we have a floor of 2 over here with the wizard. Excuse me. I was experimenting with a bunch of different things. I was experimenting like, should you do like 2D3? But here, but I didn't like that as much because it puts it down on 2. So the cleric and the thief have a floor of 3. So now they have a 12.5% chance of rolling their lowest, which is 3, which happens to be what's expected of a wizard. But that's their lowest over here. 4 and 5s are both equally likely at a 37.5% chance. So you're probably going to have a lot of 4 and 5 thieves and clerics. And you might, at a 12.5%, go to 6. I like that distribution. I think that's a great distribution for thieves and clerics in this style game, like especially as we're looking at Shadow Dark and stuff like that. I like this distribution. Let me make sure I have the right one over here. So yeah, then go over here to your fighter. Anybody who's rolling a D8, roll 4D2. Your floor becomes 4, which is the maximum for a wizard, the most outside of Constitution bonuses or whatever. So the best that a wizard can do is rolling the worst that a fighter can do. I like that. That's encoding that as a class feature into these classes. The highest HP wizard could have as much as the lowest HP fighter. It encodes that expectation. Then you get 25% chance, 37% chance for a 6, 7%, 25% chance of a 7, and then a 6.25% chance of an 8. You've got the step distribution centered around a 6. Maybe the only reason we don't do this as often is because we don't have a whole bunch of D2s around. So you think it should be 3D2 for the cleric? So looking back at these, so this was 2D3. So yeah, is that what you said? Oh yeah. Oh no, you're correcting me. You're correcting me. Yep, you caught it. Inner Light's really good at that. So yeah, I think it should be, yes. Still Mongoose said, I've thought about making a high-speed RPG that uses a pocket full of quarters for random generation. Noisy. So Lynn says, philosophical question, is it okay to assume that players will have virtual dice rollers that will handle anything like D3s and D5s? Or should you stick to real-world dice in-game designs? Well, D3 and D5s are available in Dungeon Crawl Classics. I mean, you can buy them. They're not as common, but you can buy them. So Arun says, right, I can't even count the number of times I've seen game masters let players fudge a bad HD roll anyway. So this seems like a very comfy solution and a good idea to formalize what many people do in practice anyway. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I see that all the time too. And we talked about or max HP at first level. There's a lot of ways that people are using to get around this. Yeah, exactly. You can toss coins and everything like that. A coin is a D2. Yeah, exactly. That's what people are saying. So yes. But D2s can be high, low, even, odd. Any of our standard dice can do D2s. I'd probably do high and low or something. But yeah, anyway. This was my thought. This was my revelation. I'm not seeing a downside. I'm not seeing a downside to doing it this way. And if you continue to roll hit dice like this, as you increase in level, anytime you're supposed to roll hit dice, you do this. You're going to end up with a normal distribution among your hit points. You should know what type of numbers are expected. And I think that that also knowing what hit points are expected will help you in game designing at higher levels anyway. I mean, there is a bit of an expectation if I just roll 5d8, like if I'm level 5 and I'm rolling 5d8, yes. But the problem is those 5d8 are very swingy. And so it's more difficult to design games when you've got an element of the game that is so swingy, like hit points, like how much damage are you even going to be able to take? That's very swingy rolling 5d8. Instead of rolling 5d8 by this time, you would have rolled 5d8. You would have rolled like 20 d2s. You would have the result of 20 d2s, and the result of 20 d2s is more predictable than the d8s. So. Zero the Blade says, isn't that why some DMs invoke the homebrew of re-rolling a 1 when leveling up? Yeah, that's another pretty common homebrew. Yeah. Mark says, I house rule that my PCs may re-roll 1s and 2s. So, yeah, so because there are so many house rules on this, I think it's because this, well, D2 is a coin, but it's just still not something commonly that people have traditionally used as part of a polyhedral dice set. It comes up occasionally, but it's not a common part of the polyhedral dice set. So I think it's overlooked. So I think this is the solution for fixing what everybody is homebrewing anyway. It's the system I would implement if I were trying to do a OSR, a retro clone or something like that, or even something like D&D, especially if I had to have inflationary hit points. I would definitely do it. Like I would probably not have inflationary hit points, but if I did, I think I would definitely use it. Anyway, so is there anything else we need to talk about on that subject? But I think that just about covers. I think that covers it. So we looked at the distribution. Let me go back over here. The house roll, the fun, and I think this is why. I mean, we can say, and most people house rule this anyway, as you've been talking about. Most people house rule this anyway. Which seems like an identification of something that's not fun. That a lot of people, anyway, see is not fun. So that gets removed. Let's put that actually in the game itself. Good morning, Robert. Good morning. Didn't we look at that? Right. That was my point. Sounds like a system. This is a part of this system that's broken, and it's constantly getting house ruled. So let's just fix it. All right. Well, everybody, please do hit the like button if you are here. I got energized. I was planning on having a real kind of quiet and introspective stream here, which I think we did. I think we had a fantastic conversation today, but now I'm energized. So that's one of the purposes of the morning grind anyway, is to get psyched up. So I was kind of moving slow this morning, doing work, but moving slow. Now I am energized, and I'm going to try to work on that Shadow Dark. These people, everybody who's here, if you please, aside from liking the stream, let me give you the link to go sign up for the gaming coffee shop. So if you would like to play, if you're not playing enough games and you want to be able to play online, because I've been working on building out the Shadow Dark VTT. So we'll plan on looking at that tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll take a look at the Shadow Dark VTT. And I've thought about elements of game design because I've been trying to build that game out physically. That I hadn't thought of. I've been taking notes on that as well. Like, what do I think about from game design as I'm actually trying to build it out physically, although I'm building it out digitally? It's a virtual tabletop, even though I'm building it out digitally. But if you're not playing enough games, come play games with us. It's not launched yet, but I'm putting in the chat right there. The online gaming coffee shop is just a Google form. So if you want to know when that launches, we got a coffee shop that you can walk around in and go to different tables and then log into games. I've got videos on how to use it already up on YouTube. So I don't know. I was hoping to be able to test it with a small crew this weekend, but everything takes a bit longer than you're expecting. So if you sign up there, you will know when we've got that and we can play more games. Mark says, do note that the house rules come straight out of the recommendations in the official rules. Well, there are a lot. We've heard a lot of different rules here. Oh, the official from the rules cyclopedia. Yeah, so that's odd. So why hasn't it been fixed? So were those optional rules? Let me check that for just a second. Wait, where is my rules cyclopedia? Oh, right here. We enjoyed this one. We went through a deep dive of the rules cyclopedia and did really enjoy it. Is that in the character introduction, character creation, rolling for hit points? What does it say? Well, no, at least not right here. The reroll 1s and 2s. Okay. Do you have a page number for that, Mark? So yes. So what I did is I re-rolled the characters that we were creating using this method. On their hit points, I re-rolled their hit points using this method. And that makes better characters. I think that makes better characters. So I'm like, from the fun perspective, if you look at this character, I'm the 1 HP cleric. Well, once I re-rolled them according to this, then they're better characters. So I took it. So Mark says, I think that Menser recognized it was what he preferred, but he wanted to leave space for the hardcore old guard. The re-roll of the 1s and the 2s. Okay, I didn't see it under just rolling for hit points. Let's look in the back here. Is there like optional rules? Appendices, D&D Game World, Game Assessors, Record Sheet, Indices. I don't see just like an optional rules section. We do have rolling for hit points. It says your character's hit point score represents the ability to survive injury. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And gives you the hit dice. 1d6, 1d4, 1d8 for fighter. All right. Well, Sable says having a base of hit points by race or class that doesn't go up during leveling might be a good idea too, since hit points bloat is widely declined problem in a lot of systems, especially D&D. They could the one-hit wonders, yeah. All right. Well, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, everybody. Hopefully we will be. Oh, it's okay. So I didn't see it. So Mark says I'm wrong. It's in Moldavie Basic. Moldvay Basic. I don't know that one. Page B4. Okay. Wait a minute. So I don't have that here. I don't have that. Gotcha. B6. Okay. All right. Everybody, have a wonderful day. Go forth, be creative, be constructive, and grind on. I'll see you in the morning.